Guys, hi, welcome back to the channel.
Hi.
We're back at the next weekend. As you guys can see, that little goose egg I gave myself dropping the ratchet on my face didn't get any better, but it's cool. Like we talked about in the last video, today it's gonna be pretty simple. First thing we need to do is we need to get these new tires on the car, and then we're also, I think tomorrow, I'm gonna be pulling all the wheels off of it and adjusting the ride height, because as you can see, we have a good solid, probably like a 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch that we can safely lower it in the front. And in the back, we can, I mean, honestly, we could really go down 3/4 of an inch to an inch, most likely. So that's what today's video is gonna be all about. We're just gonna get new tires on the car, play with the ride height, and then I am gonna have to get the car realigned. It's really hot out, so am I gonna do it myself with the homemade setup? I don't know yet, but we're gonna kind of go from there. I'm gonna figure that stuff out when I'm getting the tires mounted at the shop. So let's jump into it, get the car up in the air, and then we'll run the tires out and get a swap. We got the car back up in the air again. We're going to remove all the wheels before I turn the cord on. So we got the wheels taken off the car, and I would definitely say these ones are a bit toasted, being that we can see the belts on them. But overall, I think if we really look at them, alignment wise, I have them just about as close to zero toe as I can get, and just about as close to zero camber as I can get, which means I'm pretty gripped up. As far as camber grip is concerned, I'm getting as much as I can. Toe grip, I'm trying not to mess with too much, just because we're a little underpowered to add any more grip with toe, and I really don't need that much forward bite, especially with the power that we're at. But that being said, I'm going to run down to the tire shop, drop these wheels and tires off, and get them swapped out so we can get the car back on the ground. And then tomorrow, we're going to be addressing ride height. Now, I don't know exactly what is going on here. This rubber bushing fell down into the spring, so we're going to have to talk about that. But also, I'm bottomed out on my ISC coilover adjusters, collars, whatever you want to call them. I've talked to a couple people that say that they just run their springs with no adjustable collar and just the threaded insert just to kind of keep it centered. So I'm going to look into doing that, but I want to test one side first before we actually commit to it and get it on the ground. But that should drop at another 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch. And I think that'll get the car, at least in the rear, sitting as low as I want it to be. The front, I'm still kind of up in the air. We're gonna have to kind of play with ride heights in the front and figure out what's going to cause any kind of impedance with fenders and tires. But we'll get to that when we get to it. I've clearanced the bumper and the rear of the front fenders. So we have more room than normal with over fenders on the car as well. So yeah. Today, I'm just gonna get these tires swapped out, and then tomorrow we'll figure out ride height and stuff, because that's gonna take some time and it's hot as hell out. Okay, well, it's a nice day. It's hot as hell out, and unfortunately, even though I was told that my tires will be swapped over first thing in the morning, it's first thing in the afternoon, and they still haven't been done yet. So talk to them, they're gonna get it sorted out, but doesn't mean I can't get started on the suspension. So like I talked about yesterday, we're gonna remove the adjusting collar from the bottom of, I guess, the perch for the spring. And that should get the rear about 1/2 inch lower. So let's go ahead and start dropping out the top of the shock, so that way we can push the trailing arm down a little bit and get the spring out of there so we can remove the adjusting ring. this is what I'm talking about, guys. This ring is unfortunately a little too tall and cannot be adjusted lower much more. So I'm thinking about just removing it completely, and we'll just use the actual threaded perch part of it, and we'll see how the ride height looks once we do that. All right, so we separated the adjusting collars from the threaded bases. My idea is where normally you're gonna have the spring sitting on the adjustable ring. Even though I know it's not gonna be as tight of a fit, I wanna use this because this is going to index on the nub that's on the control arm, and then have the spring just sitting on it so we can't move around too much. It's not a perfect solution, and if this works and gets me the ride height that I'm looking for, chances are I'll figure out a way to machine like a spacer like this to keep it properly indexed and centered, but I don't think it's gonna cause that many issues. So now I'm just gonna throw this stuff back in with just the threaded base and the spring, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right, well, it's later in the day. We do have a storm rolling in, so it's a lot cooler right now. But when picked up freshly mounted tires, we're gonna go ahead and throw the rears on and then set the car back down on the ground off the jack stands. So that way I can get a good reading on the fronts. And then tonight we're just going to play around with the ride height in the front until it's where it needs to be. Okay, so now we got the wheels back on, we're gonna go ahead and lower the rear off, kind of see where the ride height's sitting at for the first time with no adjusting ring. All right, so now with it on the ground, not bad. I think we're actually like fender to tire as far as how tall the tires compared to the highest point of the arch on the rear. The front's still monster trucking a little bit, so I think we can definitely come down a teensy tiny bit. We'll have to see. But that being said, it's dinner time, so be back with you quickly. All right, well, done eating dinner.
I've been kind of looking at some pictures that I took of the car out in the driveway before I went in to eat. And so I think I might give it a day or two to let the new ride height set in the rear. Because now that the rear is that fraction of an inch lower, I think it's about ½ inch is what it's actually dropped by. It definitely does change it. And it's always blown my mind with how little of a change can really affect the attitude of the car. But it is. I mean, it just looks completely, it looks like it has a completely different energy. That being said, I kind of like where it sits. I'm going to let it settle in for a day or two and see if I really do like where it's sitting. And if not, then I'll drop it a little bit more in the front. But I've always liked drift cars with a little bit of negative rake, I guess you call it, where it's squatting in the back a little bit. I personally think the look is really cool. You may not, but that's a great thing about these cars is it's a form of self-expression, right? But that being said, drift car's back on the ground, has a new welded diff in it, new rear tires. It's pretty much ready to go to the next event. So that being said, now we just kind of wait until it cools off and there's an event where it's not 105, 110 degrees, and go enjoy beating the hell out of this thing. But that being said, I'm going to call it for this video. I don't think there's much else I can really do on the car for right now. Next weekend, I think we're going to end up cutting out the spare tire tub in the trunk, just because we already had to cut a hole in it to get the old diff out when one of the mounting bolts seized up in it, just so we could get enough clearance to get the diff out in the first place. And I actually ended up getting a Turtle Laboratories delete panel kit. It's been sitting here in the garage for a couple weeks now. It is a weld-in kit, but we need to get the spare tire tub out first. So that's probably gonna be next weekend. I gotta figure out some things as far as like a welder, and I think I'm going to attempt to weld it myself. But that being said, I'm happy with where the car is sitting right now. I know things are slowing down a little bit, but it's the summertime, it's super hot. I'm trying to make content where I can and that I'm happy with. So I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. If you are, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not yet and you're enjoying the content, hit subscribe and stay tuned for next week, because I finally start cutting into the car and making it even less of a street car. But you guys all have a good one. Stay safe, take it easy, and until next time, peace.